I'd like to introduce Amber Calhoun with the Graham Property Progress, and she'll discuss the retail market. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm a newbie as well, so please bear with me. My name is Amber Calhoun. I'm with Graham Property Brokerage, and I get the pleasure of speaking to you about retail and hospitality. I want to go ahead and start, I have it in my notes to say it's an interesting year, but we all know that. I want to circle back around to Jessica's predictions from last year. And I won't go through these. I'm afraid I'm going to run over on time. So I'll let you all go through them, but she was accurate on every single one of these. And I hope I keep her pristine track record on my predictions at the end of this presentation. Want to jump into some national trends for 21. Total retail sales jumped 19.3% last year. And the industry has rebounded from the worst coronavirus lockdown as people stayed home and were not taking trips. Retailers closed 63% fewer stores in 21 from the year before. Fashion companies exited 4,000 doors, and retail as a whole shut down 5,000. That was from Coresight Research, too. Q3 21 marked the fourth consecutive quarter of positive retail absorption with 36 million square feet. U.S. retail sales sank by 1.9%. And that's the biggest decline since February of last year. And I think that was due to consumers worrying about shipping delays and not sure when they were going to get their Christmas presents on time. And then biggest declines for 21 were in furniture stores, sporting goods, clothing, electronics, general merchandise, food services, as we all know, and gas stations and auto dealers. Wanted to keep this presentation positive, so wanted to give you some stats on where the PPP money went. 94% of small businesses in the U.S. received one or more loans under the program. Roughly 25% of PPP loans went directly to workers who had lost their jobs, and 75% went to business owners and shareholders. Wanted to touch on hospitality real quickly. 95% of hotels broke even on GOP basis, and then 73% broke even on a net income basis. While the improvement is encouraging, many hotels are still experiencing financial difficulty, unfortunately. Even more, seeing staffing issues, as we all know that's been a current theme throughout each industry. And then the rate of labor costs as well are affecting the hospitality industry. And then nationally, wanted to touch on restaurants as well. Here are some interesting facts I found. In 21, 659 billion were the sales for restaurants, down by 240 billion. The restaurant industry employees at the end of 21 were at 12.5 million. That was down 3.1 million from the previous year. Restaurants that are temporarily closed or permanently closed are 100,000, and 9 in 10 restaurants have fewer than 50 employees total. And then wanted to share some trends as well. Today's shopper versus tomorrow's shopper. So if you think of who's buying in the household today, that will be very different than who's buying a decade from now. Don't put all your eggs in the online basket. It's no secret that online shopping has made a leap in the past 2 years. It was already trending up, and at the beginning of 2020, 17% of consumers were buying groceries online, according to category partners. By summer of 21, this number had jumped to 51%. But surveys still suggest that consumers enjoy going into the grocery store and picking up the fruit that you want to buy. You know, if it's toilet paper, that's easy to order online. But I think people still enjoy the experience of walking down every aisle. Is direct-to-consumer making a comeback? Savvy marketers are turning to social media to promote direct-to-consumer options. Consumers will pay exceptionally more amounts of money compared to in-store purchases for these new buying models. Ad strategy shifts. During the height of the pandemic, retailers had to shuffle their promotions and strategies with the uncertainty of supply, especially in, again, household goods. Uncertainty in the ad strategy had retailers rethinking, retooling, and overhauling their promotions. And some of the changes did become permanent. Beware of looming inflation. As much as ads and promotions have been the core strategies for retail and suppliers for decades, high inflation really pumped the brakes on for those based on price. When inflation is high, promotion activity drops, as we all know. Okay, now the fun part, want to get into really the local retail trends that we're seeing here in Fort Worth. So I thought this chart was interesting. It shows investors remain very bullish in the DFW market with $5.7 billion trading in 2021, setting a new high watermark for the market. The trend comes as demand for space in the region is in a solid position heading into 2022. Leasing activity is trending higher. Annual leasing activity topped out at 8.8 million square feet in 21 and 32% improvement from last year. Let's dive into the leasing of Fort Worth's most recent developments and markets. I want to start with the Stockyards that Jessica touched on briefly. In Mule Alley specifically, they've had a ton of tenants open last year and then have signed for this year, and I won't go through all of them, but wanted to touch on Second Rodeo. Their alcohol sales were $1.7 million from when they opened in September. That's awesome. It shows people are getting out and spending money. Hotel Drover is at max occupancy and continues to stay that way. I've had the pleasure of doing some leases in Mule Alley with M2G. They were great to work with. And then wanted to note too, their project in the Foundry District stayed at 95% occupancy throughout last year. So I think that's awesome for them. Shops at Clear Fork. So the development continues to grow, as we all know, and drive through there, especially with the addition of the George multifamily project. After a long vacancy of the Twigs space, which is directly across from Fix, they have leased that to Plank Seafood. They will take a portion of the space, and then in the remainder will be a whiskey distillery that is also associated with the same restaurant group. They have also leased 6,500 square feet at the corner of Monaghan's and Ozana to the world's largest Italian custom furniture maker and store. So I thought that was interesting. They still have 2,500 square feet of restaurant space available. They do a great job of being patient and getting the right operators in there, which is so important right now. Wanted to note too, they are running $800 a square foot in sales, but it's not close to their Simon's sister property, University Park Village, which is at $1,200 a square foot. More to come there, stay tuned. Speaking of University Park Village, we'll touch on West Bend. I'm sure as you all have read, Quince, the concept out of San Miguel, Mexico, will be opening, they're saying Q3 of this year. And that is a concept by Brian Sneed. He's actually a TCU graduate, which I thought was interesting. And the Zoe's in East Hampton restaurant spaces have closed. They're going to backfill those with 2 fast casual concepts that they have not announced yet. And then Warby Parker is expanding, and they're adding an optometry component. We'll move to the Cultural District, which has also made some exciting announcements with the Crescent, Van Zant, and Bowie House Boutique Hotel. Bottled Blonde and Backyard will open soon on Faux Street, which is a 28,000 square foot entertainment concept. Should be interesting because I think the West 7th has grown into their identity of being an entertainment district from when they started development years ago and really wanted high-end restaurants. So I think now that they've accepted that, hopefully we will see some larger national entertainment concepts come in. And then, oh, I see I'm running out of time. Near Southside now has 7 urban villages, which is interesting. So they've crossed east of 35 for Evans and Rosedale. So growing very quickly. In the next slide, you will see the growth, and I hope everyone can see the amount of tenants and expansion. But it's very impressive and it's wild. Who wants to be there, whether it's national or regional? And some new developments too. I know Ryan talked about his at 701 West Magnolia mixed-use project that's currently under construction. And then you have the Magnolia High Line that is on the bottom of this slide. And then in the top left corner is Fort Worth's first boutique hotel, Hotel Revel. And it's completely self-service, which I think worked out perfectly because they opened mid-pandemic, and it's completely contactless. So it was pretty genius timing, which, nobody's opening hotels during the pandemic, but it worked, and they're at full occupancy as well. 2022 predictions, food and beverage, I think, will still struggle. As food costs have gone up, I'm sure as you can see in grocery stores, beef is at a crazy amount. Therefore, prices are rising on menus, and that also has to do with the rise in wages. It's really hard to find warm bodies to serve you. So I think it will slowly recover, but definitely has some large factors working against the F&B industry. Decrease in new developments, and Arthur spoke on this. Construction costs still remain high, and then supply chain issues as well. So even small build outs for retail space, we built out a 1,500 square foot white box 9 months ago, and that has doubled. So it's really making it difficult on the mom and pops, and then also landlords as well, that, how much TI do you give, and how do you pencil your numbers out? So, and then I'm gonna kind of piggyback on Jessica's prediction, and I know it's bold, but I just wanted to put it on there, that Fort Worth will go from 12th to 11th largest city. And that is all I have. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you all being here and listening.